The cold hum of the starship's engines vibrated through the walls of the command deck. The view outside the ship's vast observation window revealed a shimmering expanse of stars, distant galaxies, and the unyielding silence of deep space. For the crew aboard the Resolute, a former military vessel now repurposed for diplomatic missions, the stars felt more like a battleground than a peaceful frontier. Captain Noah Knight stood rigidly at the window, his hands clasped behind his back. His sharp eyes, focused on the empty void beyond, mirrored the tension that had built up in the last few hours. A warning had been issued, clear, direct, and unambiguous. Yet, he knew it wouldn't be enough. "Captain, the response from the Empire's council is unsettling." Lieutenant Sarah Griffin's voice broke through his thoughts. She had entered the room with her usual brisk efficiency, but there was an undercurrent of frustration in her tone. Noah turned to face her, his expression hardening. "What did they say?" She hesitated for a moment, clearly weighing her words. "They dismissed our message. They call it a bluff, an overreaction. They claim Earth's warning is a tactic to instill fear, nothing more." Noah's jaw clenched. The message, delivered by their ambassadors and spread across the Galactic network, was simple but powerful: do not attack humanity. If you do, you will regret it. It was a declaration of strength, a warning to the Galactic Empire and any who sought to challenge humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council had ignored it, seeing humans as an unimportant species with limited reach, and so it was easy for them to dismiss. But Noah knew better. Humanity had survived against odds far greater than anyone could imagine, and the Empire's pride would soon meet the crushing weight of a people who would never back down. "Unsettling is an understatement," Noah muttered, his fingers running along the edge of the console. "They don't realize how serious this is. It's not just a warning, it's a promise." Lieutenant Griffin, always sharp, raised an eyebrow. "A promise, sir? A promise of what exactly?" Noah's gaze hardened, his eyes now focused on something far more dangerous than the stars before him. "A promise that humanity will fight, together, no matter the cost." The words hung heavy in the room. Griffin's eyes flickered briefly with doubt, but she didn't question him. She had learned long ago to trust his judgment, even if the rest of the galaxy wouldn't. The crew knew the stakes. The Empire had launched its conquest of distant star systems without a care for the lives they destroyed or the people they dominated. They had swept through hundreds of worlds, seeing them as weak and ripe for the taking. And in their eyes, Earth, isolated on the edge of the galaxy, was no different. But Noah wasn't about to let that happen. Not on his watch. A sudden beep interrupted their tense silence. Lieutenant Griffin glanced at the screen, then nodded at Noah. "Incoming transmission from the Empire's fleet commander." Noah's lips tightened. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, and a towering figure appeared, Commander Oryx, a hulking figure draped in silver armor. His face, though mostly obscured by a helmet, bore a smug expression that spoke volumes. "Captain Knight," Oryx's voice echoed with a chilling calmness. "You have no idea what you are provoking. The Galactic Empire doesn't kneel to threats, especially from a species as primitive as yours." Noah's voice remained even. "You've made a mistake, Commander. Humanity doesn't need to be a threat to make an impact. All we need is the will to fight." Oryx's laugh was condescending. "And you think you can stop us? Your species is nothing but ants beneath the boot of the Empire. I suggest you reconsider your position before we come to teach you a lesson." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. Noah stood frozen for a long moment, his mind racing. "Get us to the edge of the Empire's territory. I want to be in position before they can mobilize. We need to show them we're not a threat they can dismiss so easily." Lieutenant Griffin's eyes were filled with a mix of concern and respect. "Aye, Captain. I'll relay your orders." As she moved to her station, Noah couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger, but his resolve only solidified. Earth's warning had been ignored, but the Empire would soon understand, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were about to remind the galaxy exactly who they were. Outside the observation window, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. The Resolute cut through the void of space with a sense of quiet menace. Its sleek hull, a product of Earth's finest engineers, gleamed under the starlight, a symbol of humanity's resolve. Captain Noah Knight stood at the helm, his eyes narrowed in determination as the stars flickered past the observation window. "Captain, we're approaching the edge of Empire territory," Lieutenant Griffin announced, her voice steady but tinged with anticipation. Noah nodded, his mind already racing through the tactical scenarios. The Empire was vast, their fleets numerous and technologically superior. But they had underestimated the human spirit, something that no amount of firepower could ever replicate. "Bring us into position, Lieutenant," he ordered. "Let's make sure they know we're here." Griffin turned to the console with practiced ease, her fingers dancing over the controls. The ship's engines hummed, and the vast expanse of space seemed to compress as they moved closer to the enemy's borders. Noah glanced at his tactical screen, noting the unmistakable presence of the Empire's scout ships. They were close, too close. His gaze hardened. The first signs of their Empire's arrogance were already visible. "We're being scanned, Captain," Griffin reported, her tone barely shifting. "It's likely a probe." Noah didn't flinch. He knew that any ship daring to venture so close to the Empire's territory would be scrutinized. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't just a message, it was a declaration. And if it meant crossing into the lion's den, then so be it. A soft chime echoed across the command deck. The console flashed an incoming transmission. Noah took a deep breath and straightened, bracing himself for the next move. "Put it through," he commanded. The screen flickered to life, and the cold face of Commander Oryx appeared once more. His silver armor glinted with the arrogance of a ruler who had never known defeat. He leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Noah. "So, you've decided to show your true colors," Oryx's voice was thick with disdain. "How quaint." Noah didn't let the insult bother him. He had no time for games. "We didn't come here to exchange pleasantries, Commander," Noah's voice was firm, cutting through the tension. "We've come to remind you that Earth won't be intimidated." Oryx's laugh was like a burst of static, loud and echoing through the room. "And yet here you are, on the doorstep of a power far greater than your primitive species can even comprehend. You've made a foolish mistake, Captain." Noah's eyes burned with cold fury, but his voice remained steady. "The mistake isn't mine, Commander. It's yours. You thought you could trample over humanity without consequence. But now you'll see, every action has a price. And your Empire is about to learn that lesson the hard way." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving only the harsh hum of the ship's engines and the silence that followed. For a moment, Noah stood still, his fingers clenched around the edge of his console. "Get ready," he muttered under his breath. "This is just the beginning." Lieutenant Griffin glanced over at him, her expression grim but resolute. "What's the plan, Captain?" Noah's eyes scanned the tactical readouts once again, weighing their options. The Empire had mobilized a small fleet near the border, likely anticipating trouble. But what they hadn't expected was a human force so willing to stand its ground. "We're not here to engage in a full-scale war," Noah said, his voice hardening with purpose. "We'll make a statement, strike quickly, hit hard, and disappear before they even have a chance to react." "Hit and run," Griffin confirmed, nodding as she accessed the ship's weapon systems. "Exactly," Noah replied. "We'll target their communication arrays first, disrupt their ability to send reinforcements. Then we'll slip back into the shadows and wait. Let them think this is a fluke. Let them underestimate us." The tension in the room was palpable as Griffin and the rest of the crew prepared for the mission. Noah could feel the weight of their trust resting on his shoulders. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to prove that Earth had more than just a place in the galaxy, they had a right to be there. As the countdown began, Noah took one last look out the observation window. His heart raced as he thought of the men, women, and children back home, their future now hanging in the balance. If they failed here, the galaxy would never see humanity as anything more than an afterthought. But if they succeeded? The tension in the command deck was thick as Noah issued the final orders. All hands, prepare for battle. Let's show them what humans are capable of. The Resolute was a shadow, slipping through the void between stars with surgical precision. Captain Noah Knight stood at the bridge, his pulse steady, but his thoughts were anything but calm. The attack had begun. The crew had executed the strike flawlessly, too flawlessly. Now, there was only one thing left to do: vanish. Shields are holding, Lieutenant Griffin reported from her station. Her calm demeanor betrayed none of the tension that buzzed through the command deck. No sign of pursuit, yet. Noah nodded but didn't take his eyes off the holographic map that spread before him. The mission was a success. The Empire's communications network was now in disarray. Their scouts were blind. And for the first time, the Empire would have to confront the reality that humans weren't so easily dismissed. But the silence that followed the strike gnawed at him. He'd been expecting a retaliation, one that would arrive with the swiftness and force that only the Empire could muster. They had underestimated humanity before. That mistake would not happen again. Get me a status update on their fleet, Noah commanded. Griffin's fingers flew over the controls, her brow furrowing as she accessed the long-range sensors. Her voice was laced with uncertainty when she responded, "There's a ship coming in fast." "No, it's multiple ships." Noah's eyes narrowed. "What's their course?" "Towards us, Captain. They're closing in. And fast." The words hit like a cold wave. He'd been prepared for this, but hearing it confirmed twisted something deep in his gut. The Empire had arrived. The first ship to appear on the tactical map was a massive battleship, its hull designed to withstand assault after assault, bristling with weapons that could obliterate anything in their path. But it was the second ship that caught Noah's attention. It was smaller, sleeker, and its design was alien, even for the Empire. Whatever it was, it had a different purpose, one that sent a shiver down Noah's spine. "What's that second ship?" Noah asked, his voice even but tense. Griffin hesitated for a moment. "Unknown. I've never seen anything like it." "Any way to identify it?" Noah pressed. "No," she replied, her hands flying over the console. "But it's not registering as Empire standard. It's too unique." Noah's mind raced, but there was no time to dwell on the unknown. The Empire was closing in, and their ships were no longer just shadowy threats on a screen. They were real, tangible, and intent on vengeance. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Noah ordered, stepping toward the helm. "Griffin, lock onto their lead ship. I want its weapons disabled, now." The crew sprang into action. Noah's heart beat louder, thumping in his ears. He knew what was at stake now. This wasn't just a warning shot anymore. They were up against an Empire that didn't forgive, and if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The first blast came without warning, streaking across the darkness and impacting against the Resolute's shields with a resounding crash. The ship groaned under the strain, but it held. The shields held. "Shields at 75%, Griffin announced, her voice steady despite the tension. "Return fire." Noah commanded, his voice tight with urgency. The Resolute's weapons systems roared to life. Energy blasts cut through the blackness, targeting the Empire's lead battleship. But even as the beams struck home, Noah knew it wasn't enough. They were outgunned, outmatched. The Empire's ships were too powerful, and there were too many of them. And then, the unknown ship fired. It wasn't a standard weapon. Noah barely had time to react as a strange energy pulse lanced out from the alien ship, cutting through the space between them like a jagged blade of light. The Resolute lurched violently as the pulse struck its hull, sending a shockwave through the ship. "Report." Noah barked, gripping the edge of the command console. Griffin was already on it. "Hull integrity at 60%. The damage is significant, Captain. We can't take much more of this." Noah's mind raced, calculating their options. They couldn't keep this up, not with the enemy closing in and their resources dwindling. They needed a miracle, or they wouldn't make it out alive. "Get us out of here," Noah ordered. "Full speed ahead, as fast as we can manage." But before Griffin could engage the engines, the unknown ship moved again, its movements fluid, almost predatory. It closed in on them, and with it came a new surge of power. The Resolute shuddered violently as if the very fabric of space around them was warping under the force. "Captain!" Griffin called, her voice strained. "They're pulling us in. It's like..." But she didn't finish. The pull intensified. The ship groaned, the walls rattling as if they were caught in an invisible vice. Noah's eyes widened as he saw the trajectory on his console. "That's impossible," he murmured, dread flooding his chest. The unknown ship had done something that defied the very laws of physics. They were caught in its grasp. They were no longer in control. The Resolute was about to be dragged into the heart of the unknown. The Resolute was buckling under the strain. Every wall, every panel, seemed to groan in protest as the unknown ship's force intensified. Noah's hands gripped the command console with the strength of a man desperate to hold on to something, anything, as the artificial gravity flickered. "Damage report." Noah barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. Griffin's fingers flew over her station, her face pale. "Hull breaches on decks 4, 5, and 6. Engines are failing. We can't escape, Captain." Noah clenched his jaw, eyes darting across the bridge. The Empire's fleet was closing in, but this new threat, the alien ship, was the true menace. It had ensnared them in a gravitational field so intense that they were helpless, caught like prey. "We need to act now." Noah snapped. "Can we disable their weaponry? Anything?" "We don't have enough power left to retaliate," Griffin answered, her voice strained. "Their weapon is beyond anything we've seen, it's not even showing up in our databases." Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently, and the lights flickered, plunging the bridge into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, the view screens displayed a massive, pulsating energy field surrounding them. It wasn't just pulling them in, it was feeding on their power. "Captain!" Griffin's voice cracked. "We're not going to survive this." Noah's mind raced, each second feeling like an eternity. The Empire would be upon them soon, and they couldn't even break free from the alien vessel's grip. They were on the verge of annihilation, but there was one card left to play, the same one he'd hoped to avoid. "Activate the emergency protocol," he ordered. A tense silence fell over the bridge as Griffin hesitated. "But, Captain, the cost." "I'm aware of the cost." "Do it." The emergency protocol was a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary. It would send a signal to the Federation's secret network, a desperate plea for help. But it would also reveal their location, their situation, to the entire galaxy. If the Federation responded, they'd come, but it would mean every faction in the galaxy would know exactly where they were, and they'd be vulnerable. The Resolute might be a symbol of hope, but it wasn't invincible. Griffin's hands flew over the console. "Sending the signal now." A flash of light bathed the bridge as the signal transmitted, sending a message across the stars. Noah exhaled slowly, his mind racing. It had been done. Now, they just had to hope the Federation could respond in time. But as the seconds stretched on, the sound of the alien ship's gravity field intensified. The Resolute groaned again, this time with a wrenching noise that made Noah's stomach turn. They were seconds away from being pulled under. Then, the unexpected happened. A pulse of light, sharper and more focused than anything the alien ship had unleashed, erupted from a position off to their left. The field around the Resolute flickered for a moment, like a dying flame struggling against a wind, and then it shattered. Noah blinked, his breath catching in his throat. The alien ship's pull weakened instantly, and the force holding them in place vanished. "What just happened?" Noah whispered under his breath. Griffin turned to him, her wide eyes filled with disbelief. The signal, it wasn't just a distress call. Noah's gaze fixed on the view screen, which now displayed the alien ship's retreating silhouette. Something had intervened. Something, had sent out a pulse, an energy wave that disrupted the force field. Whatever had just happened, it was their chance to escape. Track that pulse, Noah said urgently. Whoever did that just saved us. I want to know who, and why. The crew scrambled to comply, tracking the signal's origin. Griffin's fingers flew across the console as she worked. I'm tracing it, Captain. It's coming from the unknown ship, Captain. The ship's image flickered on the screen, but Noah's eyes were fixed on the trajectory. His mind raced. That pulse, it wasn't just random. It was a deliberate action, a calculated interference. Whoever or whatever had done it had targeted the alien ship's field intentionally. It had disrupted their control over the Resolute, but at the same time, it hadn't caused any damage to the alien ship itself. Griffin looked up. Captain, the unknown ship, it's changing course. It's heading directly for the Empire's fleet. Noah's heart skipped a beat. Is that a fight they're starting? Looks like it. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, Noah ordered, his voice steady with a quiet surge of hope. If that ship's going after the Empire, we need to stay out of their way. We can't afford to get caught in the crossfire. For the first time in what felt like hours, the tension on the bridge seemed to ease slightly. The alien ship was taking the fight to the Empire, and the Resolute, though damaged, was free. They had a chance. But it was fragile. Noah took a deep breath, watching the unknown ship turn its weapons on the Empire's approaching fleet. This isn't over, he murmured. But we might just have an ally. As the Resolute surged forward, weaving through the scattered debris of the battle, Noah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Federation might not be able to respond in time, and even if they did, the galaxy had just entered a new phase of conflict, one that no one, not even the Empire, could control.